Hey everybody, welcome back. Testing, testing. Hoping everybody can hear me. Welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show once again with your host Nick Burnaby here on UCY.tv and the antimedia.org/radio. Really happy to be back. Monday, August 21st, 2017, Eclipse edition of the Anti-Media Radio. Very awesome celestial event going on today. And I guess this was a great time for people to kind of go enjoy something that was non-political and something that was, decent and not polarizing and, not divisive. Take a break and, I'm sure people who went out there and had, these viewing parties got to make friends and enjoy things. Find out that you had something in common when it comes to wanting to see the eclipse and realizing that, you can make friends with people and you can talk to people. And I read several different of my friends saying how they, were sharing their eclipse glasses with people, random people on the street. And, to me, I guess it's just one of these lessons to take away that, we'd be a lot happier getting the politics out of our lives. And I guess a common theme that I've been kind of shifting to in my recent, the recent things that I've been doing and the recent, I guess, activism, I guess you can call it, that I've been working on is, talking more about getting politics out of our lives and not influencing our lives rather than getting our influence into politics. I think that should be the direction that we're going. And this eclipse, as simple as it is, and is just around, just one of those benevolent things that it is, it kind of proves the point that, stuff that if we don't politicize things, we can kind of get along with each other a lot better. Sure, everybody's got political opinions and stuff, but, for the most part, the way I see it is that, we should keep our politics to ourselves. Not that we can't talk about it and stuff, but that we shouldn't be forcing it on other people. It just, to me, it's getting to that point now where I've been so knee deep in politics for so long and seeing it, thinking that we made all this progress and then seeing it go back and regress and then Trump's in and then there's all this just lunacy going on. Politics isn't the answer. It's not. And our activism is great, but it shouldn't necessarily be political activism, trying to get people involved in the political system and all that stuff. I don't really think that that's going to help us. It's not going to progress us in the right direction. Getting ourselves immune from politics, now that's a whole other thing. And you know what? The government had no control over this eclipse. But still, these guys still found a way to fearmonger. I don't know if you guys saw this, but leading up to the eclipse, there was like all these reports that there was going to be like an increase in sex trafficking and just ridiculousness. No, there's not going to be sex trafficking from the eclipse. But anyway, Jake, who is staying up in Oregon, and I think he went out and got right into the path of the 100% eclipse, the totality or whatever you call it. And so he's probably going to call in once he gets a spot where he can call us. He's probably driving right now, probably stuck in traffic. Hopefully he's going to call in, talk to us about the eclipse, what he experienced up there. And I want to ask him about, I'm sure, because a bunch of people went and traveled into that line where the eclipse was happening so that they could see the full thing. And I'm sure it was like a little festival up there, all along that line throughout the whole country. And I'm sure there was a bunch of people up there who had varying degrees of, political viewpoints. And a bunch of people who had different skin tones and a bunch of people who had different beliefs and scenarios in their lives. And I'm sure they went up there and they got along perfectly fine because they had that thing in common, which was the eclipse. And they're going to go back home, and they're going to get on Facebook tomorrow, and they're going to go back to the old, left, right, Republican, Democrat thing. Hopefully we can have more days like this more days where we're doing stuff that is politically benevolent, things that aren't affecting us politically. The more we can have days like this, the happier we're going to be. The more at peace we're going to be, the less we're going to be fighting with our neighbors. And if not fighting, forcing our political beliefs on our neighbors. I mean, that's even more cowardly, I think. Voting and voting, some policy or some opinion that goes against your neighbor's beliefs, that's more cowardly than just fighting them in the street. It is. But that being said, we're going to get back to this eclipse thing if we get Jake on the line. For now, it looks like I'm flying solo. We're going to try to get DB on the line as well. I'm not sure if he's running late or if he's like at an eclipse party or something. I'm sure he's, DB being the popular guy he is, I'm sure he's got something going on. Today was not immune from politics, though. In fact, got a lot to talk about with Trump's foreign policy. Because, this is one of the areas where, at least for me too, I was like, okay, well, I don't like most of Trump's policies. He sounds like an idiot on most things. He doesn't understand trade, doesn't understand immigration, doesn't understand human action, doesn't understand terrorism. But at the very least, he was like critical of the Iraq war. He said it was a mistake. He said Bush should have never done it. A tweet I just shared on my own profile from, I think, 2013, Trump saying that it was that the U.S. should get out. We spent too much money, lost too many people over there. And of course, Donald Trump today comes out and he says, you know what? We're going to re-up on our efforts in the war on Afghanistan. Upping the amount of troops, according to the New York Times, a small increase of 4,000 troops, which is, according to what we've acknowledged in Afghanistan, is around 8,000. It's an increase of 50%, which I would consider not a small increase, but a rather large one. Afghanistan. Been there since like 2001, 2002. Throughout almost all of Bush's presidency. We're there throughout all of Obama's presidency. Obama himself did a surge on Afghanistan. Obama ran on this platform. I'm like anti-war. I'm going to end these wars. We should have never been in Iraq to begin with. We're going to end this thing in Afghanistan real quick. Obama made the surge, put a bunch more troops in there, and then pulled them back out. I mean, I didn't understand at the time. I don't understand it now. It didn't work. And now Trump is basically repeating exactly what Obama did. I don't know, what was that, 6-7 years ago? It failed, and now Trump is repeating it again. Repeating it again. And I know this quote is like misattributed to like Einstein, but repeating the same thing over and over, and that's the definition of insanity. It's pretty true. I don't care if the quote is misattributed to Einstein. Whoever made it up was correct. It is pretty insane to go around doing the same exact thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. And it's not just what we've done in Afghanistan. It's not just that Bush couldn't win it. It's not just that Obama couldn't win it. It's not just that Trump can't win it. It's not only that. If you're a history buff like me, you'll know that Afghanistan is a place where empires go and they pretty much run themselves into the ground. They say it's like a graveyard of empires. And the most recent one, the USSR, the US participated in that. We helped create The Mujahideen, the guys that helped take down the Soviet Union, drew them into Afghanistan and just just turn it into a huge money pit and a resource pit. The U.S. helped engineer that. We helped create the forces that we're now fighting against, supposedly, over there now. And we know what they do because we helped them do it last time. It's not like, oh yeah, that was, Afghanistan took down the, Alexander the Great, but that was like over 2,000 years ago. Big difference. No, I mean, we helped them take down an empire just a few decades back. It hasn't been all that long. It's not like this is, something that is like we should forget about because it's been so damn long. No. Pretty recent. And we had a pretty big involvement in that, So, Trump is rededicating to the Afghan war. He didn't give any specifics. He didn't give a deadline. He didn't even give a goal. He didn't even say, okay, well, we know we've won in Afghanistan if this happens. He didn't give that. He just said, we're going to go in there. We're not going to make the same mistakes that we made in the past. We're actually going to win this time, and, we're going to let our troops do their thing. Basically, all I'm reading out of this whole thing that Trump said is they're going to put more troops and they're going to cut them loose. And they're going to say, you guys, you know what? Kill more people. Your standards of, the rules of engagement have now been lowered. And you can go ahead and, basically what I'm seeing here is that more civilians are going to end up dying. And if that's an anti-terror policy, then somebody needs to pinch me and wake me up out of this dream, because from what I know, killing civilians and being rough and heavy-handed on civilian populations, that's how that's the fuel of an insurgency. That's how you create terrorism. By, doing what Trump is basically saying, okay, we're going to do more of this stuff. So this is, I don't even know what they call it nowadays. Is it Orwellian? Is it just, I don't know. It's literally like there was a rally planned in San Diego, a quote unquote free speech rally that was going to burn books. Like, so, we're living in Orwellian times where you say one thing, you actually mean the opposite. So Trump says he's going to go win in Afghanistan, and how he's going to win is by putting more troops and being more brutal against the Afghani people. That's actually going to create more terrorists. It's going to make it worse. And so this is very, very saddening to see, for one, because all those people that we're sending over there are going to be in harm's way. I know a lot of Afghan war vets that are really messed up. Almost huge chunk of those guys have PTSD. Personally, I know a few people that are affected by it. Secondly, the civilians in Afghanistan are going to die. Trump says he's going to re-up his war against the Taliban, which is stronger than ever, basically. Last I read, they got like 65,000 Taliban in Afghanistan. The U.S. has, now we're going to have 12,000 troops? We're outnumbered. Massively outnumbered by guys that live there, have their ancestors that lived in that land for thousands of years. You think we're going to beat them like that? Crazy talk, dude. Crazy talk. I think we got Jake on the line now. Our awesome journalist, Jake Anderson. What's up, Jake? How you doing, man?
Hey, doing pretty good. Yeah, I just heard the news about Big Daddy Trump, and it's almost as if he's just purposely trying to abandon his base. But I think people can see the same pattern going here. The same thing we saw with Obama is come in with a lot of promises, and then you go into the meat grinder of the military-industrial complex or the deep state or whatever you want to call it, and when you come out on the other end, you have an imperialist. It's like a factory-made imperialist.
Exactly. And if you look back at I mean, dude, now that I'm looking at it, you look at what Obama's rhetoric was on foreign policy, and then you look what Trump's was, and they both basically said, oh, Bush messed up. Bush shouldn't have done that.
Right.
And so that kind of, I guess you would call it a populist foreign policy. it wins elections for the guys, and then they go and they abandon that entire thing, the thing that got them elected. I know Trump's got his alt-right base, and a lot of these guys are conservatives, and a lot of them are, alt-right, white nationalists and shit. But I think the thing that really won Trump the election was his foreign policy compared to Hillary Clinton's, which was much more hawkish. And obviously, Obama won against John McCain because John McCain is a complete lunatic on foreign policy. And Obama sounded like he made a lot of sense back then. So it's crazy, dude. I mean, it really is like he's abandoning his base. It's like, okay, like this is what got me elected, and now I'm just going to completely throw it out the window.
Well, especially with the ouster of Bannon, even though, of course, the mental gymnastics tournament has begun, and they're calling it 8D chess. Bannon will now, be able to work from triangulate from the outside, but have, highly classified information to leverage. No, it was clearly a way to placate the infuriated masses over the way he responded to the Charlottesville thing. They probably had been waiting for the right moment to let Bannon go. Of course, it happened on a Friday. You'll notice anytime anything massive happens with the administration, or even with a corporation, it's standard practice. You release it on Friday. So you let the news cycle gets eaten by the weekend. Sometimes it doesn't work, but especially this weekend with the eclipse happening, which hopefully we can talk about in a minute. It was the perfect time for that to happen. And then look at what they immediately. But it's just unbelievable. You get rid of the guy that your base loves because he's a nationalist, and then you immediately go globalist with a war of aggression. I mean, it's utterly baffling. But hey, maybe it is 8D chess. Maybe it's just some kind of string theory for white nationalists that we can't understand.
Sounds pretty improbable, but yeah, I guess all semblance of Trump's anti-establishmentness, whatever you want to call it, it's gone. I was seeing Breitbart today is already on the attack against Trump. So that kind of tells you what's going on there.
It really makes you wonder what the hell is really going on, because time and time again, presidents come in, and by the time they're less than a year in office, they're singing the paean of war, and it's clearly there's nothing on the record of it would give any reason why we need to be in Afghanistan. Oh, you're worried about a power vacuum is what he said? Okay, yeah. No, our government is not worried about leaving a power vacuum. We saw what happened in Iraq and in Libya. The government doesn't give a frog's fat ass about a power vacuum. So you just have to wonder what is really going on that they just absolutely demand that we be at war with a third world country at all times. It's truly unbelievable, but I'll leave that to Big Daddy Trump.
Yeah, it really.
You're just not getting the 50D chess, Jake.
Clearly, it's like in the movie Interstellar when he enters the what's that thing called? And shit,
the Mobius loop.
No, I'll find it. What's that? The cube, the interdimensional cube he enters. Well, anyway.
The Mobius loop?
I'll find it. Just go ahead. Ask me something about the eclipse.
Anyways, welcome, DB, to the program.
Hey, I didn't know you...
I didn't even know you were on here, man. You snuck in the back door. You jumped over Trump's fence and got in. First,
yeah, it was,
let's tackle this Afghan stuff because this is, this... Of course, there was some hope that people were holding out some kind of little bit of hope that Trump was going to go on TV today. And there was a rumor going around that Trump was actually going to pull out of Afghanistan. Sure enough, he does the worst thing you can do, which is dedicate more time to America's longest war, which has no sign of being won, has no end goal, is costing us so much amount of money, ensuring the it basically is ensuring that ISIS is going to be there, and terror-resistant insurgency and all that stuff is going to be eternally present there. But I was thinking today, maybe Trump's going to go on and say, you know what, we need the damn opiates, we need the damn minerals to take on China and placate the pharmaceutical industry. So that's why we're going to stay there and just come out and be like, you know what, we're making it official, we're an empire, we're going to go do this. I was like, maybe Trump will do that. DB, what is the real reason to continue the war in Afghanistan?
God, man, I don't know. I just can't. I can't keep up with this 99D chess going on anymore. I mean, I don't know what's going on, dude. I really don't. Like, there's not a real reason to stay there unless we're thinking someone's going to come in like the Taliban again. Like, we just cannot get rid of them because they keep hiding in the hills. So it's like every other empire. That's the graveyard of empires for a reason. So I guess maybe they feel like it's only going to be a matter of time before they get some kind of autonomous drone that runs on solar energy, and they don't need troops there. But man, yeah, I'm sure they're going to ramp it up now. Actually,
yeah, dude.
Why did we do a 10? I think Trump gave us a 10% military increase to over nearly 700 billion on paper. So I mean, it's going somewhere.
Yep. Of course, Afghanistan, we talked about this a couple shows back when we were talking about North Korea, because interestingly, North Korea and Afghanistan share a similar economic profile when it comes to some of their resources. They both are mineral rich and they both grow opium, poppy. So,
And ironically enough, Afghanistan sits on top of a lot of uranium too. They just didn't have the ability to develop it, and then they got invaded.
Yeah, they've been at war for the better part of their existence. Civilizations have empires constantly going over there and taking over Afghanistan and stuff.
Especially those dirty Mongols.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the Mongols. The Mongols are probably the only ones that successfully took over the area for a good amount of time. So, to me, this is very interesting because Trump recently declared the opiate crisis a national emergency. And we all know, at least I know the people listening to the show know, that the opiate crisis is made possible by our war in Afghanistan, because that's where 90% of the world's opiates originate from. And so we're over there. My opinion is that we're over there for economic reasons mostly, geostrategic, because it's so close to Russia and China. It's a good spot to be in to try to contain those guys.
And Nick, it's geostrategic with an eye on the future, because Afghanistan is it's a treasure trove of rare earth minerals, and it's sitting on top of lithium too. And if anybody researches what the power sources of the future are going to be, well, Tesla's showing you what it's going to be, and lithium is proven to be the best storage technology of electrical energy right now. So, I mean, we're over there for the future, for the long haul, because we have to be, kind of.
Lithium is also good for treating bipolar depression. The more you know. I don't think
it's good for it, but it does something.
It's actually the only natural pharmaceutical. You get normal pharmaceuticals or these concoctions from the pharmaceutical company.
Not Kratom?
Well, Kratom's not a pharmaceutical; it's a natural supplement. But
I thought you said natural. But at any rate, I've seen what lithium does to somebody, and it does bring you back to normalcy. Because one of my friends was schizophrenic, but
yeah,
on the bad side, you sleep half your day.
Yeah. All right, I got us off topic. Sorry.
But yeah, man. I mean, this whole thing in Afghanistan, they're still trying to tell us that it's about terrorism, it's about national security. No, it's not. Afghanistan is on the exact opposite end of the world. and Bin Laden is gone, and that happened a long time ago. Who knows? I'm sure we don't know the real story about that either, but even that boogeyman is now gone. And
Baghdadi's been bombed like 7 times, so And
I'll tell you what, who wasn't in Iraq when we went over there to fight Saddam Hussein? Al-Qaeda. Who wasn't in Afghanistan? ISIS. Who's there now? ISIS. So at some point we got to start realizing that the terrorism is not, our foreign policy isn't going and fighting terrorism, even if we are going over there and killing the fighters that claim to be part of these groups, of course, and killing other people in the process, but that these terror groups follow our foreign policy. Al-Qaeda is now in Iraq, and ISIS as well, and now ISIS is in Afghanistan.
Freedom isn't free, Nick.
Yeah. And if you disagree with me, you're anti-American. Just kidding. It's crazy, though, man. It's crazy. The longest war in our history. There's no way. Trump came out today and he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm not. We're not going to make the same mistakes as our predecessors. We're going to actually do something this time." It's like, well, what are you going to do? Well, he didn't say. He didn't say how we're going to win.
Well, he doesn't like to announce his battle plans because he doesn't want the enemy to know what's coming.
Yeah.
He's going to make it rain Moabs.
Yeah, basically. And so what we're dealing with now with Afghanistan is this is a perpetual war. It's a perpetual war, and nobody really, who really gives a shit at this point besides us? It's sad. I hate to say it, man. And we've been talking about these wars for years now. Years. And who is actually going out and marching on Washington, D.C. and saying, no more wars with Afghanistan? You got 30,000 people show up in Boston against this supposed alt-right rally, which basically got canceled, and some random people showed up to it. You got 30,000 people showing up to that, but you can't get nobody out there to march against the war in Afghanistan, America's longest war, who has no goal. We don't have a real enemy. At this point, the Taliban is like a ghost out there. They outnumber us 5-1, but they're like a ghost because you bomb a group of them and 3 times the amount sprout up in their place. You could nuke the entire country of Afghanistan. Those guys would survive in the hillsides, in the tunnels, and they'd come out the next day and they'd still be in charge. You can't beat these guys. They've been defeating the strongest empires in the world for 3,000 years. They've been winning. You can't go over there and beat them. If you want to go there, you're basically going and you're trying to commit suicide is what you're doing. It's a place where empires go and commit suicide.
You have to go into the tunnels, and I know that there's some fans out there who have seen Jurassic World about how they were talking about, genetically breeding raptors to go chase down the Taliban inside the caves. But that's what you have to do. You have to physically go there with troops into the caves, every single cave, and then clear it out and then collapse it. And you have to do that all over the whole country. So it would take 1 million troops. It would take a draft. And I don't think anybody over here is gung-ho about going and doing that.
No. And, all the guys, I know plenty of Afghan war vets, and they go over there and they see what's happening and they're like, dude, they don't believe in that shit. They see what's going on. It's like, this is not a legitimate war. We're not doing good stuff. We're not fighting a legitimate enemy over there. We're not protecting, at the very least, we're not protecting U.S. interests. We're not protecting, or maybe they're protecting U.S. interests, not protecting U.S. freedoms.
Protecting corporate interests, though. So you're basically making dudes that are getting paid $40,000 a year into mercenaries, and that's not what they're supposed to be doing. So we need to pull them back. If corporations want to play God, they can use XE and Blackwater. We should really seriously, any of those troops in Afghanistan should at the very least just get repositioned to Iraq. At the very least.
Yeah, dude, it's totally...
Because at least there, we've ruined the country, so we have to just stay and rebuild it. But Afghanistan doesn't give a shit. Just, let's leave.
Yeah. They've been repelling empires for 3,000 years. I think they would be fine if we left.
I mean, we can buy the opium from them for pennies on the dollar from the Taliban. That was just total bullshit. It was just cutting the middleman out.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and that's the ironic thing is that we're dealing with this opiate crisis, and we're over there fighting a war to get the opiate for cheap. And it's
like, who's the Ortega over there, Nick? How many guys have they drone bombed trying to decapitate the head of the snake? But over there, it's not like South America where they could corner the heroin market and the cocaine market because they just kept killing the capos and then people gave up. Like in the Middle East, it's not like that. You can kill every single person there, and their kids will take up the fight.
Yeah, and not only that, but like the former president of Afghanistan, I guess he stepped down in like 2014, Hamid Karzai.
Because he's like the godfather over there.
Yeah, his brother is an admitted drug lord, money laundering, smuggler. You know, that's the guy that the United States was like, oh, well, we're going to bring freedom to and democracy to Afghanistan. We're going to liberate them from these bad Taliban. You remember all the propaganda, how bad the Taliban treated women when, leading up to that war. You know, the media ate that shit up right to us.
How stupid do they think we are? We're going to liberate the country from the president's brother.
Yeah. So we went over there to liberate them supposedly from this horrible Taliban who was so bad to women. And then we say, okay, well, we're going to put the brother of a drug lord in charge. Okay, yeah, that's freedom, totally freedom and democracy. Freedom to export opiates, really, is all the freedom we got. And so the whole thing is a scam. The whole thing is a sham. And the media is just eating this shit up. Looking at the news coverage of Afghanistan.
We turn a blind eye to the stuff over there that we could make a difference, like that Bachabazi bullshit, where those old-ass men and the young boys and stuff, where troops see that and they have to turn a blind eye and they don't save those kids.
Yeah, we covered that story on the anti-media a while back about, one of the soldiers that spoke out. He found out that one of these, what do you call them? The Afghan security forces. Trump actually mentioned them in his speech, saying we're going to make these guys stronger. We're going to have them do our work. That's been the plan the whole time. That's what they've been saying the entire time. We're going to take over. We're going to knock out the Taliban and the Afghan security forces to, secure the country, and then we're going to pull out. That's what we've been saying for 15 years. We've been saying that same exact thing, and it hasn't worked. In fact, a bunch of the attacks where U.S. servicemen end up getting killed are from the actual Afghan security forces that are just, infiltrating, the government forces, and then they go and do suicide attacks on the U.S. forces there. And then, like you said, DB, these guys have been known to have like little boy, basically like sex slaves more or less. And the U.S. soldiers over there, they see it going on, and it's complete. They're like, what the hell are we doing here? This is horrible. This is unbelievable. And then the guys that speak out get fired. They get retribution for speaking out against this shit. Like, you wonder why these guys come back and they got PTSD and they're suicidal. Well, dude, all you gotta do is go over there for a little bit and find out what's actually going on. It's not, we're spreading peace and freedom and shit. No. We're fighting corporate wars, we're acting as mercenaries, and we're turning a blind eye to pedophilia. That's what's going on over there. And we're securing opiate for our opiate crisis here and get all of these soldiers come home and their wives are like hooked on opiates and suicidal and shit. Like, it's ridiculous what's going on. And Trump, who in 2013 tweeted about, we need to get the hell out of there. Now he's like, yeah, I'm all for it. In fact, let's expand it. Total bullshit, dude. Looking at Trump.
Yeah, where's the guy what changed in 4 years? The problem is that he's giving Mattis carte blanche, and he's just letting him do anything he wants. And of course they want to build up for the MIC. They're all totally invested in it, and they're telling him, yeah, it's good. Trust us. Like, we'll mop it up. Just around the corner is new technology. We'll be able to use it. And they just keep saying that to him. And the thing is, if there was new technology, they would have already used it on us.
Yeah, it's different this time, right? But, most of the empires that have existed in the past have gone there to die. But it's different this time. So anyway, hopefully, with Bannon gone, and like I said, I checked out Breitbart today to see what they were doing. and it looks like they're starting to be critical of Trump. Trump's base is slipping away. I think this Afghan stuff, and just the events in Charlotte and stuff. I don't know. The guy is kind of between a rock and a hard place, I guess you could say. Trump is now probably the weakest president I've ever seen, and he's in a danger zone where I think he could be replaced by Pence like pretty easily.
We just need a good crisis, Nick. That it's in the works. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
they're never gonna allow an impeachment when they had to do a soft coup to install him. They're never gonna allow Pence to get in. I'm telling you now, like if anything happens with Trump, it's just gonna be an open coup. And if you guys want to see what that is, just look at Venezuela right now. Except in Venezuela, they disarm the people. They know they can't do that here, so it's just going to be all these armed people against. I don't know. I have no idea what against.
Yeah, and there's so many variables now because the U.S. is very quickly becoming the second strongest country in the world after China. The flippening, I guess we could start calling it, is going to happen sometime very soon.
But China's super perilous, though. You don't forget that they depend on us for everything. They literally cannot exist without us. If we turned our back on China right now and just stopped supporting them materially, and they got into a war with India, they could starve out. They could have an internal revolt by starving out because they depend on our food. So, I mean, they're very in a perilous position themselves. And, I always like to say, like, nobody knows this, but Japan owns 70% of our debt. So if Japan owns 70% of our debt, China's only 20%, and we all know that Japan's basically at this point about to undergo the robotic revolution now. And I'm sure I want to hear Jake's voice to touch on this, dude, because they're the most powerful country in the world.
Here's my voice.
Jake, right?
Japan
is what, like tomorrow on the verge of robotics?
Oh yeah, they're major roboticist fetishism over there, particularly in the sex bot industry, which
but they've got to have it for useful stuff too, right?
No, I think they just want sex bots. No, they're developing
only tentacle bot.
Yeah. Think about this with Japan. This is an interesting topic. After this, I want to shift over to talk about this eclipse because Jake was up there in the path of it, and I want to hear what happened up there because I've got some theories that I put forth at the beginning of the show. I want to bring up. Anyway, with Japan, the interesting thing is that they've got the opposite issue compared to China. China for the last years. I don't know how long they had that one-child policy, and I know it was like over a decade. But China's been trying to curtail its population growth. Japan has been dealing with a shrinking population for a long time now, and the U.S. has been, having a population boom because for various reasons, people chasing the American dream, immigrants coming, refugees coming from all of our foreign colonies and stuff. So the U.S. has had population growth. Japan hasn't, and because of that, robots have stepped in and taken the place of where in the U.S., Trump ran on this, well, I'm going to bring jobs back and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. In Japan, they're like, no, these jobs, we don't have people for them. So our population is shrinking. Japan's population is like getting really old too. They got a bunch of really old people. And the robots, Japan has already basically accepted this, and they're embracing it. They're like, yeah, dude, bring the robots in. Let the robots do all the work. We hardly have enough workers to do enough of the jobs anymore. Anyway, everyone's too old and everyone's retiring. Barely any young people. They're not even concerned with having sex and having kids anymore at this point. And they're just like, bring in the robots. And like Jake said, dude,
hey, speak for yourself, Nick.
They're boning robots now. They're not even trying to have real life partners. They're like content with having robots. So. Japan they're kind of on the opposite end, where in China it's like, oh, all this automation, you got 1 billion workers. Well, what are the workers going to do? And in the U.S., you got this kind of, aging middle class and all these millennials that really don't have as many skills as they should for the real economy. are all like, shit, these robots are going to take over our shit. And in Japan, they're like, dude, yeah, bring it on, baby. You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole different attitude. And so, yeah, Japan is a sleeper here. And they just recently, just last year, they changed their constitution to allow a remilitarization. So,
and I heard they're going to vote to legalize pot by 2020.
You cut out there for a little bit, but Japan just opened its first military base as well. I want to say it's in Africa. I can't remember exactly. Japan just opened its first foreign military base since the fall of Japanese Empire in World War II.
They have 5 aircraft carriers.
No, see, I didn't know that.
Do you know how they've built them though? Instead of making them for planes to launch, they just made them for, I guess, like drone planes to lift off vertically. So yeah, or their helicopters.
Interesting stuff. So yeah, that's all stuff to keep an eye on. The growing economic might of China, the shrinking assertiveness of the U.S., and of course, the reason why the U.S. cannot really do much on foreign policy is because of the crap that we're doing in Afghanistan. We've been there for so damn long. I saw an estimate today that said it costs $800 billion to be over there. I think it's a lot more.
There's a crescent right now, Nick, going on with world population, which is India, Indonesia, and the Philippines are growing to the south and encapsulating China, and China has nowhere to go. And that's why China and India right now are skirmishing in the mountains of all places, because China is so desperate for anywhere to grow food that they'll fight over the mountains in the Himalayas.
Yeah. And right now, I was reading about that, and those guys were like throwing rocks at each other. No joke. Like literally the Indian and the Chinese troops were up there like in the Himalayas. They were tossing rocks at each other, hitting each other with rocks. They weren't actually
You can't get air support up there either because like everything stalls.
Yeah. It's really rough terrain up there, man. Like it's hard to fly planes up that. Helicopters up there that high and stuff. So anyway, yeah, dude, all of this stuff is going on. Afghanistan is over in Asia. I wouldn't really consider Afghanistan part of the Middle East. It's over there in the steppes of Asia. And it's very geostrategic, a lot of stuff. The reason we're there, they're never going to tell you the truth, but it's just discouraging to see that, it's basically just the nail in the coffin, dude. It's like, okay, well, we're going to pull out of there. We're going to save, turn inward and rebuild the U.S. That's what Trump said in that tweet. He said, let's leave Afghanistan, let's rebuild the U.S. And maybe that would have been a smarter thing, but it's like, no, we're just going to stay in Afghanistan. So, it's suicidal from an empire standpoint. That being said, enough of Afghanistan, enough of this depressing foreign policy stuff. Jake, you got to see the eclipse up in Oregon from a really nice vantage point.
Yeah.
I was talking, opening up in the show, about how kind of the eclipse was something that could bring people together in a way that gets it leaves all that divisive political conversation behind. And it's like, this is something that politics have nothing to do with, and this is just something that people of all faiths, all political viewpoints, all races and everything can kind of put aside their differences and say, look, let's go share this opportunity to observe this rare event and just kind of do this thing. And I know up there that along that whole line of totality, there was kind of like a party atmosphere going on. Tell us a little bit about what you experienced up there, man.
Yeah. I will say that the event was not good for flat earthers. They were very anxious during it. But yeah, I went down to Salem because I live in Portland, and I really didn't care that much about total solar eclipses until about a few weeks ago, and I started reading. I heard a few eclipse hunters talk about it, and they all I heard this pattern of people who were obsessed with it saying that it's just unlike anything you've ever experienced. And, then I wrote an article for the site and just got more obsessed with it. And so, yeah, we went camping with a couple friends. And, so, I mean, it did not disappoint. just a interesting fact is that this total solar eclipse, which by the way is known, it's called a syzygy. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. Syzygy, and that's the alignment of three cosmic bodies into one. But the last time, so this was a coast-to-coast U.S. total solar eclipse. It was only viewable in the U.S. The last time there was a total solar eclipse that was viewable only in the U.S. was 1776, which, given the kind of general atmosphere of the country right now, I thought that was very interesting. But yeah, it was really amazing. I mean, as you get closer to it, things get eerie. There's just a strange, almost twilight glow to things. People that were previously annoyingly babbling suddenly become quiet. Dogs go hide. The two dogs that were there with us went and hid in the car. And they got spooked out. Things go silent, and the color around you. It's unlike anything. There's no comparison to the color. It's a very unique, strange pallor. And then when the moon finally fully occludes the sun, and of course this is already a cosmic coincidence of incredible magnificence, because the only reason this is possible is because the sun is 400 times further away from the moon, but it is 400 times bigger than it in terms of its position from the Earth. So it's just this incredible coincidence of distance and size aligning in our sky that makes this even possible. And then, so as the moon finally occludes the sun completely, you can take your glasses off, and during that period of time, you're able to see this million-degree halo of plasma around the sun that you normally can't see. And it's just, you see the energy pouring out of the sun, and meanwhile you see this planet, this alignment of bodies in the sky, and it gives you a very real sense of the fact that you're in relative motion on a planet, in a orbit around a star, which is a very strange feeling. And I'll be honest, I didn't cry, but I like sort of started to tear up for a second. Like, I got emotional, and I was told that would happen. And it's a very primal, I guess that's the best word to describe it. It's a very primal experience. And I certainly don't.
A little bit.
Go ahead.
For some reason, your signal is breaking up a little bit. The last thing I heard was blank something and then primal. You were describing the feeling that you had. Can you repeat that? I think we got the connection stronger again.
Were you getting the massive feels, Jake? I heard the whole thing.
Okay. See, I don't know what part I got cut out, but I mean, it's just a very visceral feeling of being a creature on a planet in orbit around a star, and combined with the twilight. I mean, literally, in a matter of seconds, it goes from full daylight to you're looking at stars and planets during the day, and at the same time, you're seeing the plasma just flowing out of the sun in a way that you just can't normally see. And it's just a very primal, weird experience, and I can see why people get obsessed with it, and eclipse hunters travel the world. I can't say that I would, travel the world to go see it, but I'm a pretty big astronomy nut, and I'm pretty obsessed with space, and I'm very, very glad I went. Somewhere NASA estimates somewhere around 300 million people experienced it, And it's not always going to be here. And unfortunately, in 600 million years, tidal friction on the Earth will have changed the moon's proximity to us, and there will no longer be total solar eclipses. So in 600 million years, man, they're going to be shit out of luck.
Man, sounds like you had a pretty cool time. And, we caught a little glimpse of it here in San Diego. I didn't have the eclipse glasses, but we got a bunch of old sunglasses. We strapped 6 or 7 pairs of sunglasses together and was able to get a quick brief look at it. It was still a little too bright, but I took a 1 second look at it. But over here, it was only 1/3 of the sun was kind of blocked out, so it wasn't nearly as awesome as being right in that path of the totality and stuff. But it sounds like a really cool experience. And of course, I'm sure you guys saw. I know I was saying that this is a non-political event, but of course, the President of the United States is out there on his balcony looking up at the damn thing with his bare eyes. I guess he thought it was fake news that said that you can't look at that.
It made him cry.
Yeah.
And I saw some hilarious memes about that. You can't see how bad your poll numbers are if you can't see.
Jake, did you get any pictures of the some strange stuff around the sun, or
you have to have very highly technical and expensive equipment to get any kind of reasonable shot of it. I did take photographs of the shadows on the ground, just to kind of get a sense of the color change. But honestly, it's very difficult to capture It's very difficult to capture with a camera, and that's what I had been told. I was told don't even worry about taking pictures during the totality, just experience it. And so that's what I did, and yeah, I got emotional for no particular reason, just the sheer majesty of it. And I'm pretty stressed out these days in general, but also just bummed out that we're experiencing such divisiveness. As a kid, I used to think maybe one day I'll wake up and the entire world will have just changed overnight. And part of me was thinking that again during this. I was like, maybe when the moon moves away, maybe everyone will love each other. Alas, one of our camp neighbors said something rude to me right after, so that didn't happen. But maybe.
What could they possibly say to you, Jake? What the hell?
Our neighbors were just assholes the entire time. That's okay.
I'll tell you what.
Gotta kill them with kindness.
I'll tell you what. There was a lot of articles going around. There was some Christian dude saying, "Well, this is ushering in the end of days," and there was the more kind of I guess the paganist, astrology types that were well, this is going to usher in a new era of change and all these types of things, and people were kind of eating that stuff up. There was all these different theories, but it kind of does give way to what you're saying, Jake. I mean, maybe I guess it's what we manifest becomes reality, right?
Yeah.
And if people take this eclipse as an opportunity to change directions and start anew and start thinking differently, it could actually happen. It really could, and it wouldn't be anything magic or anything. It would just, people decide, we're going to take this landmark scenario, this rare event, and say, we're going to start changing the way we're doing things. It would actually happen. It could really happen. I would love.
I certainly think there could be a domino effect type, where people slowly finally realize that we are the world. God, that sounds so cliche, but no, we literally constitute the psychological landscape that we're analyzing. And if you want to get more metaphysical about it, a lot of people believe that humans can manifest the reality they want to live in. For yourself, certainly you can do that. You don't need anyone's permission to manifest a new reality for yourself. And working together, perhaps a critical mass of that kind of manifestation could turn the tide on things. I know DB talks about that a lot, and You know, I was thinking about DB what you said. We need a total eclipse of the heart, and I was thinking about that. And
it's coming though, Jake. Has anybody been seeing what's been going on in Charlottesville now that the media is not there? The bridge building going on, so
doesn't surprise me.
People need to look a lot further into it and wonder why all of a sudden Confederate statutes are being pulled down. All of a sudden, the KKK and white supremacists are this huge problem. I mean, tomorrow, if they wanted to, they could take them all down, put them all in jail. But the problem is that there's like 10% of them infiltrated within half of the law enforcement community. So nothing's going to change until the people change it, and the people are talking about changing it, and that's what's scaring them, and that's why they're creating these events. They're putting people in position to hurt and kill other people that are on the very fringes of society because they were told to stand down. The police say they were told to stand down. The truth is the police, they just stood down. They want to see it too. So, I mean, let's not get played by the powers that be. Let's just let this empire fall, not play into their violent game, because they're going to try to get violent to keep some semblance of order at the very end here. And this is our opportunity. This is the opportunity now to tell them, unless you're going to force our hand violently, we're actually going to decide who's going to be our leaders going forward. We're not going to have rulers anymore because you guys suck.
I think you make a great point. I do think we have a moral imperative to stand up against bigotry when it shows up. You know, even though
punch a racist in the face, whoever they may be. It doesn't matter. You know,
I'm not saying punch anyone in the face, man.
I am. I say if you're racist,
you know,
you should get punched.
I mean, I don't think the government needs to censor the alt-right. The people and the free market are going to do that.
Yeah. And, you know, let's not forget the KKK is probably the most heavily infiltrated organization by the FBI that's in the U.S. So, you know, a lot of these guys, like Cantwell and them, are probably informants, or if not, you know, working for them, leading the sheep astray. I don't think a lot of these guys have hate hearts and let us.
I'm on my clock, like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing, but call it a reality, cause there's no illusion.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.